Hey ratbags, it's Jade today giving you my starter guide for Assassin's Creed Shadows. The embargo's up, I've spent a good 25 hours in the game, which isn't much just yet, but I definitely have picked up a whole ton of stuff that I think you need to know ahead of playing or just when you're getting started. I'm going to cover basics of combat with each of the characters, the mistakes not to make with your scouts and exploring the world, some quick tips on settlement building, and a whole bunch more. So leave a like if you find this video useful. Check out the rest of my Assassin's Creed content. I've got plenty of guides incoming for Shadows, so let's go. Seems a bit bonkers including a tip on how to play one of the main characters, but the game doesn't actually do a great job of telling you how. I was about 8, maybe 9 hours in before I realised I've been doing the wrong missions, assuming that maybe if I carried on completing some of these guys, the Shinbakufu, that I would eventually get to play as Yasuke. Instead, you need to talk to Tomika, who's part of the League, the middle circle in the objectives board. She'll ask you to go and enlist the help of someone that can maybe get you into Nobunaga's castle, and that's how things progress. But it really isn't clear from the mission description that's underneath her icon. Eventually, with the help of some others, you'll gain access, and then you eventually get to play as Yasuke. And don't panic if you decide to play as one character for a long time over the other, you can still get a chance to go and pick up armours for them. In fact, some of the castles will only have specific rewards for each character. But if you left it a while, you may have to spend a bit more on upgrading some of these legendary armours to be at the level that you're currently at, and you do get all the mastery points that you've earned to go ahead and spend on your other character exactly the same. So don't worry, you're not going to have to grind again with another character. There are some real benefits to switching, of course. One of them is to get rid of a wanted level, which happens for the whole region. So what triggered it? I think it was actually the bell being set off in one of the castles. Instead of like previous games where it'd only be that one area, it does apply to the whole region. So make sure you take out any of the bells. You can do it for range with a shuriken or an arrow, but otherwise jump on top to sabotage it. You'll be able to upgrade one of the buildings in your settlement later that allows you to send your scouts to reset the region warning. Just simply hover over the region with the warning and it should give you the option to send your scouts when you've unlocked the ability. Otherwise, wait till the end of the season and it should give you the option to do it then, or it should do it automatically, or you can simply switch over characters and they won't have the warning in that region unless it gets activated again. Hideouts are of course a massive part of the game, being able to personalise and place the buildings in any way you want, decorate, landscape, and obviously add a lot of decor. I've done a much more comprehensive guide giving details about every single building and which ones you should unlock and how to do it the fastest, but a couple tips from that here. Get your settlement up to the next level as quickly as you can by placing a few of the buildings. It's not that hard, but that then allows you to upgrade the forge that you'll place to level 2, which allows you to upgrade your weapons all the way up to level 20, as well as add some of the engravings that will give you special buffs on your gear. Then next you want to get your Kakariga up, as this is going to allow you to have loads of different safe houses all over the map. And once you've found one out in the world, even if you're not in that same region, you can still go and activate it as a fast travel point if you didn't have enough coins. It does cost 800, so it can be a bit pricey, and there's loads of these scattered all around, but they basically act as fast travel points. So like I said, you don't have to be close to it. Once you've activated it, you can then simply fast travel back. And the biggest thing you'll be doing at this building or the one inside your village is taking part in some of the contracts that are on offer. Each one of these places will have a set list of contracts for each season, and completing them will give you lots of rewards. Some will be basically just coins, others are going to be the materials you need for upgrading your settlement, and they're massive. Definitely the biggest concentration I got as a reward, or spending ages going and looting castles and places. Doing 3 or 4 of these really set me on my way, so make sure you complete some of these in a season before the next one starts, as they should refresh every new season. And they're really simple. It will just be a small encampment of guards with maybe a couple of elites, and you basically just break through, loot the chests and pick up some of the extra resources that will be laying around. You of course come across these in the wild as well, but you'll be missing out on that experience too. But this is the fastest way to go ahead and unlock all the buildings and level up your settlement. And then you can go ahead and add some of the engravings and basically give yourself extra buffs and bonuses. There's so many. There's ones that will do extra damage, ones that will give you extra health. Some you'll get as rewards out completing missions, and others you'll have to buy from merchants. And if you're absolutely rolling in coin, then make sure you visit the port trader. This guy sells a bunch of different resources, whether it's for upgrading your settlement or for your actual gear. So if you're ever short, then you can go to him. Bit expensive, but yeah, if you really need some. You'll usually find one of these guys close to water. But of course, the major way that you'll pick up legendary gear at least is by taking care of your quests that are now mapped out on this objective board instead of just a big list. So pay attention to the level of some of these targets, as some might be way too high and just make your life miserable trying to complete them. Just like previous games, enemies will have skulls above their heads if they're too hard to take on. But otherwise, this is going to be your best chance to pick up new gear. Just like Valhalla, you have to clear out certain points of interest to get some of the best gear, and in this case it's the castles. You have to also take out a couple of the Daishu, special samurai that patrol around the area. Some will only be 2, some might be 3 or 5, and some of the larger castles. Once you've killed all of them, you can then approach the main tower pagoda and go and get your special loot. So maybe don't absent-mindedly go and just clear every castle that you come across. Do double check the rewards are going to be worth it. Some gear is only for Naoe, some is going to be for Yasuke. You can of course invest in upgrading not legendary gear, and it may be a while before you pick up your first pieces, but I would still say you want to save a lot of your resources, obviously coin, for upgrading legendary stuff. It's clearly much better. It'll have additional buff or bonus slot that you can apply, and is always usually better, especially when you start comparing levels or upgrading it to match any other new gear you find. Of course, you will find epic and rare gear, and I do believe some of that is more randomized, especially stuff that you might come across in just random chests sometimes while exploring out in the world. But anything listed as a reward from killing an enemy, or listed on the map when you hover over the castle as the reward, then that should be what exactly you get. I've lost count of so many different weapons and pieces of gear, but honestly, as soon as I got some of the legendary, I just never bothered with the rest because it was always much better, especially when you start leveling it up. That's pretty obvious, but you never know. Some people might still be persisting with an uncommon weapon, even though they really should be moving on. In terms of combat and weapons, then obviously Naoe's got a whole host of different weapons compared to Yasuke. She uses katanas and tantos, which are basically daggers, but my favourite is the kusarigama. Maybe actually more better suited for multiple opponents, as they can do a lot of range attacks around you, but definitely once you get used to them, I really like these. They just give pretty much the best range out of any of Naoe's weapons, obviously with the daggers being really something you have to get up close to an enemy to actually make hits. So make sure you use the heavy RT or R2 attack most if you've got multiple people around you. I'm showing purposely here some bad combat from me. You need to know when to switch though, for sure. If you're taking on one enemy at a time, it's definitely time to maybe whip out your daggers or your katana. As you can see, as soon as I start getting more enemies around me, it was keeping them away. You really can play the game pretty much. No matter what character you choose, you need to focus on getting the triangle abilities. These can really help turn a tide in battles. I swear in Valhalla though, you went around the world and just found these as basic collectibles, but this time with the mastery system, you do need to level up and rank up to get access to at least 3 of them. It does look like the 4th is going to be a reward for later in the game, which honestly I hadn't got to just yet. But particularly for Naoe, with especially the Tantos, there's an ability where you automatically avoid a set number of misses or hits. This helped out greatly if you're not absolutely adept at parrying or even dodging. You know, some people just aren't that great. And even for pros like me, it was nice to have so I could wade in on an enemy. Ever since I saw the reveal for this game, I've wanted to get into it because I loved Tenku back in the day. Yes, I'm that old. So Naoe's definitely my character of choice, but you will have to play as Yasuke for a whole bunch of different missions and quests throughout the game, although there's good contingent, like I said, that you can pretty much avoid playing as him, or if you want to actually play as a samurai for a lot of the game, but you will be limited. So she is a bit lighter with her attacks comparatively if you were head on, but of course her abilities with the grapple mean she can get up to higher places much simpler. I found almost without exception any big castles, it was better to use her to sneak around and take out the Daishu objectives and then get the reward. If there's any kind of missions in the towns or outer towns, I always found actually choosing or switching to Yasuke was pretty good because he could just head straight in there, take out a few enemies and done. I will go over some Yasuke's finer points in a minute, but let's talk about the weapon masteries a bit more. The weapon masteries are obviously how you upgrade your proficiency with each type of weapon, so make sure you are paying attention to this and giving yourself as much damage as you can get from a certain weapon that you're using a bit of. Again, really obvious, but you'll be surprised sometimes you might want to flick out a different weapon, try it out, and you haven't actually put any mastery points into it. That can often lead you to feel like that weapon's a bit rubbish. And don't forget, you can reset your mastery points pretty easily as well. Great feature is it doesn't cost anything. You can reset one tree, so you can take all your points from your katana and then go and put it into a different weapon. So there's no reason why you can't experiment on a lot more. Eventually you'll probably max out because it was quite easy to get lots of mastery points. You get them for leveling up, you get them for completing certain quests. So yeah, you have to go low and really level up your knowledge points. These are things that you get from doing all sorts of activities, whether it's having a meditation which takes you back in time, but these are only for Naoe to complete. And Yasuke has got his own little things like doing a kata, and it's pretty much the same deal. Mash a bunch of buttons in sequence and then you get the reward of a knowledge point. Or lots of other activities like finding the scrolls in temples, which is usually 2 or 3 of them that you have to find. All these activities reward you with knowledge points, and then these are what are going to help you rank up to get the next level to increase your abilities with your gear, as well as your assassin, shinobi and samurai. You're really starting to see them little red icons dry up on the map. Really can't find any more knowledge points. As said, do switch over maybe to Yasuke unless you want to go and explore a new region. That's when you'll find obviously a lot more. These bow ones though with auto aim are absolutely super easy, so definitely seek them out. Also get some rewards of a new horse. Right, it's time to talk about the good points of Yasuke since he's been getting a bit of a rough ride. And although Yasuke's been billed as this massive brute that can't do things like jump on top of certain pagodas, which is true, he can't get on top of the tallest towers, but he does have access to the bow, which I found really cool, being able to take on enemies from distance, or just pepper short range ones like these Ronin hunting me. One of the few weapon masteries that you'll have access to pretty much all 3 abilities while using it very early, as you only need to I think upgrade to level 2 in your masteries to unlock 3 of them. Each level of mastery usually gives you only 1 special ability to use. And he's the only one that has got access to guns too. The standard ones are incredibly slow to use unless obviously you can put a lot of points into the mastery, but there is a special legendary gun that reloads super quick, so definitely recommend picking it up, and of course I'll have a guide on it. His most powerful weapon is the Cannibolo. This huge club is absolutely beastly once you learn how to use it. Slow but definitely super powerful. I didn't think I'd really enjoy using this weapon, but actually once I learned how to focus on an enemy, it definitely came good. Especially with Yasuke's abilities like kicking enemies. He's also got obviously the spear blade, the Naginata. Again, really good for more ranged contact with multiple enemies, just to spin around, especially its special move. Last thing to say on some of these weapons though, they do have a lot of combo attacks. Some of them get quite involved, so bear that in mind with some of these bigger weapons. And I'm probably murdering these names, but get a grip. I'm not a Japanese weapons expert, but it's probably the long katana that you'll be using the most of. I definitely recommend trying out some of these, as I think specialising in them will give you even more damage output. There's nothing wrong with the long katana, it's obviously going to be the weapon you start off with. Some of these other weapons you are going to have to go and buy or loot or find. But if you use the katana, the regular one for Naoe, it's nice to mix it up with some of the other weapons that Yasuke's got. Now despite some early previews slandering my boy for not being able to get through some gaps, hey, don't judge his size, he actually can, you just need to press the slide button, the B button, and he'll be able to go through. So yes, he's not a good assassin as Naoe, but he definitely makes up for it with his actual speed and the pretty much power to take on multiple enemies with a lot more damaging hits. And he can be a bit more nimble than you think. Spotting loot is the same system you're used to. The golden spots will be highlighted. Any that have got a larger golden rim around them will usually be a chest that has a random chance of being something like a decoration or potentially an uncommon, rare, or maybe even an epic weapon. The normal gold spots are usually resources for your hideout or for upgrading your gear. Naoe is the only one that can actually highlight enemies through walls using the eagle vision though. Yasuke doesn't have that ability. So again, this is why I think it's important to try it with Naoe in some of these castles. So bear that in mind. If you've got plenty of resources for your hideout or your weapons, then you don't necessarily need to go and hunt down every single one of these. You instead focus on the ones with the pulsing circles to unlock new gear. Also worth pointing out that when the seasons change, these places do come populated again with guards, but it does refresh all of the loot as well, except for the main legendary loot that you find in castles. That is a one-time only. So, mastery points you'll pick up through a wide variety of things. Little mini quests, coming across certain NPCs, basically every time you level up. Knowledge points by doing the activities, and to actually level up experience, then as always in these types of games, it's usually the story content that gives the most XP. Although a lot of the side content will obviously reward you with a decent quick amounts of XP. It's worth noting, some of these circles that you have to complete usually have a head of the family or the tribe. So there's a few instances where you don't have to kill everyone in the circle, but doing that means you're missing out on some of the XP and potentially some rewards. So it's up to you morally whether or not it's worth killing everyone, even if they're not necessarily as evil as you may be led to believe. A few quick ones on Traversal and travelling around the map. Absolutely, Kurogigas do give you that extra option to fast travel to places. Maybe the eagle synchronization spots are just a bit more complicated. One note of caution though, going through a lot of the towns using the guided pathfinder means you slow down. I don't know why, but some of these towns and cities are huge and it means your horse goes to a snail's pace. So try and just get out of the city as quick as possible and then recenter back on the actual direction you're meant to go. I highly recommend you use the Pathfinder, as also there is so much jungle and deep forest as well as big huge hills, more so than Valhalla. In that game I swear I never used the Pathfinder, I always just cut across following the trajectory of my compass. But you'll have real issues in this if you do that. You'll have to really be persistent going up some of these places, getting stuck on trees. It's very dense. I know, it's based on real life, that's what Japan's like, right? It does feel ordinarily more dense though in this game, so I really feel like they want you to traverse the pathways. So maybe more so than ever, activate as many of the synchronization spots as you can and try and buy plenty of the Kurogiga outlets, because honestly it will save you so much in the long run. Also, you can now swim underwater, so be prepared for that. You'll find a loot sometimes, but there will be bubbles rising to the surface if you go into a pool. So that's the way to check to see if there's any chests. And unless I missed it, there isn't any way to sit down. I swear Valhalla had a point where you could just make it day or night, but I haven't come across a way to do that in Shadows. So hence why you've seen a lot of gameplay at night, because oh my god, it seemed to be night a lot of the time. So make sure you've got some carrots for your snacks. There's quite a few people of this region quest that you come across, so each one has got this little circle, and some of them will be simple little side quests to follow. Others will be basically killing bandits or ronin, and it will build up over time. I do recommend when you go and explore a new region, look for exclamation marks if you've got the easy map in out where it shows you where certain things are, because it doesn't keep count of any enemies you've killed until you've gone and spoken to that person in that region. You might as well, you get some rewards from it and you'll be surprised how quickly you'll rank up killing certain bandits, but it's only for that one region. So in this one, this young girl wants me to go and take care of all the ronin, and eventually I've got to kill at least 25 of them to get a good reward. Some of the other regions are bandits where you need to kill 100 of them, but you will get rewards at different stages. So you might as well start that off as soon as you go to a new region. They're pretty much nearly always found in some of the major towns. Right, let's talk a little bit about the scouts. One thing to note, there is a game setting option that you can add on or off in game settings, and basically gives you the traditional way of playing Assassin's Creed, where it just gives you the marker location of any boss that you've come across or mission. Otherwise, the default way is that you're meant to go and use your scouts to go and investigate some of these places. I make guides, I have to do things quick, I put on the easy mode. What I didn't realise was though, there was no way to really go back to it. Even though I turned it off and on, maybe it's a glitch, it wouldn't allow me to use my scouts in that way again. It does also deactivate a lot of achievements as well, all of them in fact, if you turn this on. So it's up to you how much you care about that kind of stuff. Of course, it does mean you can use your scouts to pick up supplies that you find inside the castles, and they deliver them at the end of each season. They do replenish at the start of each season, and if you meet random NPCs, that will give you options sometimes of either a tip about the local area or sometimes refilling your scouts. You can choose to refill them or at the Kurogigas for a small cost. But I never really had to do that often. Seasons change pretty much by lots of actions. Ranking up I do believe makes it go forward, using fast travel does as well, as that was often the times that it would kick in. Basically they all contribute a little segment towards the halfway point of a season. There's actually 2 points of each season. So it was actually close to 20 hours before I got around to winter time. You can fast forward seasons in the inventory menu as well, and like the game tries and tells you that something's going to be easier or harder depending on seasons. Yeah, we'll have to wait and see how much deeper that gets, but obviously things like running around in the countryside in the snow are not really that fun. Obviously shows you in the top right corner on the compass how many segments you got to go to the halfway point. But bear that in mind, if you've definitely got a whole bunch of scouts and you're pretty close to being able to go and investigate maybe a place that might have some of the supplies, you might want to use them up. I have got more details on all of this kind of stuff to do with scouts and the hideouts, so do go and make sure you watch that video. And I think that's pretty much it for hopefully just a good, decent little starter guide for you today. I am going to have much more involved skill and tips videos incoming, especially once I've got a good amount of time in, as I just didn't get the review code in early enough. But once I've sunk in and obviously complete the game, expect a Wish I Knew tips video incoming, and definitely lots of guides on getting all the legendary gear. So hopefully you're subscribed. I have enjoyed my time with Assassin's Creed so far. I can't wait to dive in a little bit more. So until next time, I'll see you ratbags later.